Hello and welcome back to my workshop. Now this week I'm going to do a very quick video and I'm going to renovate what's in this box, which is something I've been after for quite some time. It's going to be a simple, quick renovation. So to find out what's in the box, stay tuned. Welcome to Frank's little workshop. Shall we make something? So, let's see what's in the box. Now basically what we have here is quite heavy. It's a marmalade shredder. This one is an antique. It's by a company called, let's have a look, Follows and Bate, and it's a universal marmalade cutter. There you go. Now these things are quite expensive, quite rare, and what I want to do is basically renovate it, which involves stripping the whole thing down. There's a blade here which I'd like to sharpen. I'd like to do something with these surfaces, whether I clean them off. I don't want to paint it because obviously it's an antique. I don't want to ruin it. I want to keep its original features. But basically this thing's quite heavy. What you do is it mounts to your worktop side. We can just move this. Obviously in the kitchen. You put orange peel in here. I have to make a wooden plug to go in here, so I'll have to do some wood turning. And basically you push the orange peel in here, slice it with this, and you get some orange peel shredding at the end. And then basically what I'll do is I shall renovate this one for my mother-in-law, and hopefully she can make us some prize-winning marmalade. So this is basically how I did it. First thing I did was to strip it down. This didn't take very long because there was only one main bolt that acted as a pivot and the two screws that held the blade in. Took some quick dimensions of the wood, which I'm going to have to use as a plunger. And then started with cleaning off the front plate. Now this, obviously I thought I'd just be able to quickly sand this off or using a wire brush on a drill. But that proved a bit more difficult than I thought. So I set up my lathe to use the same wire brush but actually mounted in my lathe. This was fairly successful, but the paint that was on there, which I think is enamel, was quite stubborn. So I had to find a different method, which I ended up using my random orbital sander with initially quite a coarse sanding disc. Then cleaning off all the little grooves that I couldn't quite get to. I actually used a Stanley blade here, and then I could take it back to the lathe with the wire brush and carry on cleaning off all little bits that remained. I was trying to get a nice even finish on it. Not over concerned about the final finish at the moment. And then took the varnish off of the handle, which was quite easy. This bit is cleaning off the surfaces where the blade actually rubs against the body of the machine. So just basically cleaned off the mating surface, and then again with the sander took off the front plate, just took off the enamel off of that, and then a quick buff with the wire brush. Got the rust off of the blade and off of the thread that mounts it to the worktop. And then just a little tiny bit of oil just to make sure that that's all free and not damaged. Then concentrated on the part where the plunger goes in, where the orange peel actually goes in. Now I found out this wasn't quite round, it was a little bit oval, so I dealt with that later. Now soapy water and a fairly stiff brush went over the whole thing. Obviously you've got about 100 years worth of yuck to get rid of on this. Cleaned that off and blew it off. Now this is my sanding stone. I did actually leave this to soak for about 20 minutes and then started sharpening the blade. Started off with the back of the blade, so it's always important to have the back of the blade as flat as possible, and then concentrate using various grades of sanding stone to sharpen the blade at the right angle, and then just checking it here with cutting some paper. Now to make the plunger, now this was actually a piece of tree it's pear tree out of my mother-in-law's garden, which I chopped down probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and it's been drying in my workshop ever since. Just assessing here whether or not I can use it as a plunger, and I think I will. So I cut that to roughly the size, but obviously a square, and then trimmed off the edges to make it as a sort of hexagon shape, ready to go in the lathe. Now I put it in the lathe, and obviously this was backwards and forwards, trimming it as I went to see if I could get it to fit snugly into the machine. The problem is, obviously, as I say, the hole in the machine wasn't quite round, so I had to make it slightly undersized. Otherwise, if you turned the plunger, it would seize in the hole. So I had to come to a compromise about what size I did it. Now this is trimming off the edges, just to make the handle part of the plunger. You can just about see it there. So it's basically the plunger, but with a knob on the end that you can pull out. Then, when it's fitted in, I had to find a method of stopping it from falling all the way through or pushing right up against the blade. Here, just sanding off the end, obviously where it'd be mounted. But as you can see here, it pushes right the way through. So I had to find a method of stopping that. And my method was to cut a small groove and put an O-ring. It's quite a sturdy O-ring. It's rubber O-ring, and this stops it from going all the way through and pushing against the blade. So a quick demonstration here. So you can push it quite firmly without it actually touching the blade, because the last thing you want is some wooden shavings in with your marmalade. Okay, that was quite suitable. Had a quick tidy up here because I was making a bit of a mess. Had to get myself ready to move on to the next section. So once the surfaces were clear, I then got my buffer out, which is just an angle grinder with a buffing wheel. This is the final finish on the front slider. What I used there was a little bit of buffing wax on my buffing wheel. Sorted out some hardware here. Obviously I didn't want to use too modern hardware, and also I couldn't find a bolt with a suitable shoulder, so I had to clean up the original bolt, which had obviously over the years been undone with various pairs of pliers and spoons, and so it was quite damaged. So now this is mounting the blade. There was one screw originally missing, so I've had to put 2 new screws in. And I've used stainless screws, which were obviously too manly for my teeny tiny hacksaw, so I had to cut them with my angle grinder and trim them up with that. Then obviously don't try this at home, kids, using an angle grinder on the bench. Then it took quite a bit of time to actually sort out the thread on those screws, because obviously if it needs to come apart at any point, you don't want that to be difficult, and you don't want people damaging the threads afterwards. Once I was satisfied with that, it was basically time to put it together. I used some pure mineral oil, which is food safe again, because obviously it's going to be coming in direct contact with the food. And the basic assembly process, very light oiling as I was assembling, making sure that all the nuts and bolts fitted properly, and then use some natural beeswax on the handle. Just because that's obviously what's going to be touched. People will have greasy hands when they use it. The plunger was treated with the same mineral oil, food safe mineral oil. The whole body was then coated in a very light coating of the same mineral oil. Then everything was finally buffed off, and then here's the final product. It's come out quite well. I haven't obviously tried it because I don't want to get it all full of orange peel before I actually give it away as a present. But overall, the overall effect is good, but it is going to be a useful, functional tool. If not, it could just be mounted on the side to be shown off as an antique. So that's that done. Well done me. So thank you very much for staying till the end of that video. This is all finished now. I should be able to give that away as a nice little present. It's going to be a functional tool. Hopefully we're going to get some marmalade out of it. But if not, it looks very nice. It's basically, it's still an antique. If I have any problems with this, I can still take this apart and get this enamelled, which is what I think it was before. But I think, yeah, a nice usable tool, and it's still got some of its antiqueness. Okay, right, join me for the next video, and we'll hopefully make something out of wood. Well, in fact, I know we will, because the project's always underway. Okay, see you later. Bye.